David Garrett thought he had it all figured out: a thriving career, a beautiful wife, and the freedom to do as he pleased. But when he walked into a luxury hotel with his mistress, everything he thought he knew shattered in an instant. The woman behind the reception desk made a simple correction that would unravel 7 years of lies. What he didn't know was that the wife waiting at home wasn't just any woman. She was the billionaire owner of the empire he'd been too blind to see her building. This is a story about what happens when success makes you blind, when betrayal meets consequence, and when the person you underestimated holds all the cards. Sometimes the wake-up call comes too late. Sometimes it comes just in time. Welcome, may wisdom find you wherever you are in this world. And may you recognize the value of those standing right beside you before it's too late. If this story speaks to you, I'd be honored if you'd hit that like button, subscribe to join our community, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Now, let's dive into this powerful story. The woman at reception corrected him before he could finish signing. Mr. Garrett, the penthouse suite. Her fingers moved across the screen. I have you in the Grand Deluxe, room 2847. David didn't look up from the registry. We requested the penthouse. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, that suite has been reserved. Beside him, Tessa shifted closer. Her perfume reached him before her touch did, something expensive he'd bought her 3 weeks ago in Paris. Her hand found the small of his back. David. Soft. Disappointed. He pulled out his card. I'm willing to pay the difference. Double if necessary. The receptionist's fingers stopped moving. Sir, I'm not authorized to... Triple. The suite is occupied. Then move them. The lobby hummed around them, crystal chandeliers refracting afternoon light, marble echoing footsteps, somewhere behind him the elevator chiming open. A 5-star hotel in the center of Manhattan. He'd chosen it specifically because Claire never came here. Claire preferred smaller places, European imports, hotels with history instead of height. The receptionist looked past his shoulder, and her expression changed completely. David turned. Claire stood 15 feet away near the concierge desk, wearing the navy dress she'd bought for his mother's funeral. Her hair was pulled back. She carried no luggage. She wasn't moving. The air in the lobby felt thinner. Tessa's hand left his back. Mrs. Garrett. The receptionist's voice had gained 3 levels of deference. Welcome back. David's hand was still extended, credit card between his fingers. Claire walked toward them. Not quickly. Each step measured, the sound of her heels against marble marking the seconds. She stopped at the counter, 3 feet to his left, and placed both hands flat on the polished surface. Susan? Claire's voice was quieter than the receptionist's. Has Mr. Garrett checked in yet? No, ma'am, just now. Which room? 2847. Claire nodded once. She didn't look at him. Didn't look at Tessa. Her thumbnail pressed against the marble edge hard enough that the skin around it went white. Cancel it. Susan touched the screen. Of course. David found his voice. Claire, the penthouse is occupied because I'm staying there. Now she turned. Her eyes moved from his face to Tessa's, then back. I own the hotel, David. I've owned it for 4 years. The elevator chimed again behind them. Tessa stepped back. A small movement, but decisive, creating distance. That's not possible. David heard himself say it, heard how stupid it sounded even as the words left his mouth. You're right. I don't just own this one. Claire lifted her hands from the counter. I own 6 of them. This is number 3. The lobby hadn't stopped moving. Guests checking in, staff crossing between the restaurant and the elevators. someone laughing near the bar, but the sounds felt muted, like they were happening in a different room. You don't. He stopped, started again. Your family money is in a trust. You can't access it until my grandmother died 8 months ago. Claire's voice remained level. The trust dissolved. I didn't tell you because you never asked about her. You were in Tokyo that week, closing the Nakamura deal. When you came back, you talked about it for 3 hours over dinner. I listened. I always listen. His credit card was still in his hand. He lowered it. The night you told me you needed space. That was February 14th. Claire looked at Tessa now. Direct. Assessing. He took you to Daniel. Private room. He ordered the 7-course tasting menu because he'd heard me mention it the week before. I know because I called the restaurant the next morning and asked if my husband had enjoyed his anniversary dinner. They said he had, that the woman with him seemed lovely. Tessa had gone pale under her makeup. You don't understand. David's throat felt tight. This isn't... Claire, let me explain. No. The word was soft, but absolute. Susan, please have security escort Mr. Garrett and his guest from the property. 2 men in dark suits appeared from somewhere behind the concierge desk. Not aggressive, just present. Ma'am. One of them gestured toward the entrance. David looked at Claire. Really looked at her. The dress was the same one she'd worn 9 months ago when they'd buried his mother. She'd held his hand during the service. Hadn't cried until they got home, and even then she'd done it quietly in the bathroom, trying not to burden him with her grief over a woman who'd never been particularly warm to her. Claire, please. His voice cracked. Don't do this here. Here? She almost smiled. Almost. You chose here, David. You brought her to my hotel. The security guard touched his elbow. Light. Professional. Tessa was already moving toward the door. David didn't follow immediately. He stood there, card still in his hand, looking at his wife. At the woman who'd been sleeping 30 feet above him for how long? How many nights? How many times had he checked into hotels in this city while she owned the buildings? Your luggage will be delivered to your office. Claire turned back to the counter. Susan, I'll be in the penthouse. No calls. Yes, ma'am. The pressure on David's elbow increased. He let himself be guided. Outside, the afternoon sun hit him like a slap. Tessa was at the curb, already flagging a taxi. She didn't look at him. Tessa. The taxi pulled up. She got in without responding. The door closed. The car merged into traffic. David stood on the sidewalk, watching it disappear. Behind him, through the glass doors, he could see the lobby. The receptionist was on the phone. The security guards had returned to their positions. Somewhere 40 floors above him, Claire was stepping out of an elevator. He pulled out his phone, started to dial her number. Stopped. His hand was shaking. He'd been married for 7 years. In that time, Claire had asked him about his day approximately 2,000 times. He'd answered maybe a quarter of them. The rest he'd deflected or summarized or simply grunted through before checking his email. She'd mentioned her grandmother exactly once. He remembered now. She'd said it quietly over breakfast, something about needing to fly to Boston. He'd been reading a briefing document for the Tokyo trip. He'd said, okay, without looking up. The phone in his hand felt heavy. A woman exited the hotel behind him, pulling a wheeled suitcase. She glanced at him, then away. Whatever she saw in his face made her hurry past. David looked up at the building. Glass and steel, 53 floors, the name etched in silver letters above the entrance. The Meridian. He'd walked past this hotel probably 200 times, had never once connected the name to his wife. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. Meeting in 30 minutes. Conference room B. He'd forgotten. The Brennan contract. 3 months of negotiations coming down to signatures and handshakes. He typed back, cancel it. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Are you sure? Brennan's flying out tonight. David looked at the message. At the hotel. At the space where Tessa's taxi had vanished into traffic. He called his office directly. David Garrett's office. Jennifer, cancel everything for today. Tomorrow, too. Sir, the Brennan contract. I know. Cancel it. Tell him we'll reschedule. He won't reschedule. He made that clear. Then we lose the contract. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll take care of it. He hung up. The hotel doorman was watching him now, not obviously, just aware. David recognized the posture, hired to notice things, trained to be discreet about it. He should leave, get in a car, go somewhere. Instead, he walked back through the doors. The lobby temperature hit him first, perfectly controlled, slightly cool. The kind of climate engineering that cost serious money to maintain. The marble under his feet was heated. He could feel it through his shoes. Susan saw him coming and picked up her phone. David raised both hands, stopped 10 feet from the desk. I'm not here to cause problems. She kept the phone in her hand but didn't dial. I just need to know. His voice came out rougher than he intended. How long? Susan glanced toward the elevators. Back to him. Sir, I can't. Please. Something in his face must have registered because her expression softened slightly. Mrs. Garrett acquired the property 4 years ago. She's been personally involved in operations for the past 8 months. 8 months? Yes, sir. The same month her grandmother died. The same month he'd gone to Tokyo. Does she? He stopped, started again. Does she come here often? Susan's fingers tightened around the phone. Sir, I really can't discuss. Please. The word came out wrong. Too raw. I need to know. She looked at him for a long moment. Then quietly. 3 or 4 days a week. She has an office on the executive level. She usually arrives around 9 and leaves around 6. David's chest felt tight. Which days? It varies. This week. Which days was she here this week? Susan's jaw tightened. Sir, I think you should. Please. Monday through Thursday. The words came out reluctant. She left at 7 yesterday because there was a problem with the kitchen contractor. Monday through Thursday. 4 days. He'd had dinner at home exactly once this week. Tuesday night. Claire had made pasta. He'd eaten it while reviewing documents on his tablet. She'd asked him about work. He'd said it was fine. Had she been testing him, waiting to see if he'd ask about her day? He couldn't remember if he'd even looked at her. Thank you. He turned toward the door. Mr. Garrett. He stopped. Susan had set down the phone. She's kind. To everyone here. That matters. He nodded, not trusting his voice, and walked out. The apartment was too quiet. David stood in the entryway, keys still in his hand, looking at the space like he'd never seen it before. 1,500 square feet overlooking Central Park. They'd bought it 6 years ago, right after his first major acquisition. Claire had wanted something smaller, closer to the ground, but he'd insisted. The view was an asset. The address opened doors. She'd decorated it herself. He'd told her to hire someone, but she'd refused. Said she wanted it to feel like theirs. He looked at the living room now, the cream sofa they'd picked out together, the bookshelf she'd filled with novels he'd never read, the coffee table with its neat stack of architecture magazines she subscribed to. On the wall above the fireplace hung a photograph from their honeymoon in Tuscany. They were standing in front of a villa, her head on his shoulder, both of them laughing at something the photographer had said. He couldn't remember what it was. His phone buzzed. Another text from Jennifer. Brennan's office called. He's pulling out. Says he can't work with someone unreliable. David typed back. Understood. 3 dots. David, that was a $40 million contract. I know. What should I tell the board? He stared at the message. The board. Christ, he'd have to explain this. They'd want answers, strategy, justification. Tell them I'll address it Monday. He set the phone on the kitchen counter and walked to the bedroom. Claire's side of the closet was still full. The dresses arranged by color, shoes lined up beneath them, the drawer where she kept her jewelry still closed. She hadn't packed, hadn't taken anything. He sat on the edge of the bed. The sheets smelled like her shampoo, something with lavender. She'd used the same brand for as long as he'd known her. He'd never thought about that before, never noticed it as a choice she made, a constant in the shifting landscape of their lives. How many things had he not noticed? His phone buzzed again. He ignored it. The bedroom window faced south. From here, he could see the Meridian's upper floors, the glass reflecting the late afternoon sun. Somewhere in that building, Claire was, what? Working? Sitting alone? Calling her lawyer? The thought made his stomach clench. He pulled out his phone and called her number. It rang 4 times. Then her voicemail. This is Claire. Please leave a message. It's me. His voice sounded strange in the empty room. I know you don't want to talk right now. I understand. He stopped. What could he possibly say? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Claire. Please call me. He hung up and immediately realized how inadequate it was. 7 years of marriage, months of betrayal, and the best he could offer was a 30-second voicemail. He tried again. It went straight to voicemail this time. Claire, please. I need to explain. It wasn't... He stopped. Wasn't what? Wasn't serious? Wasn't real? Wasn't supposed to matter? Please call me back. He set the phone down. Across the room, on Claire's dresser, sat a framed photo he'd forgotten existed. The 2 of them at his Harvard graduation. She was wearing a yellow dress. He had his arm around her waist. They looked impossibly young. They'd met the year before at a networking event he'd only attended because his roommate had dragged him there. She'd been standing by the bar, nursing a glass of wine, looking vaguely uncomfortable. He'd approached her because she seemed out of place, and out of place meant approachable. They'd talked for 2 hours. About architecture, her passion. About finance, his ambition. About the gap between what people said they valued and what their choices revealed. She'd challenged every assumption he'd made that night, called him on his bullshit in a way that somehow didn't feel like an attack. By the end of the evening, he'd gotten her number and known with complete certainty that he'd just met someone important. He'd called her the next day. They'd gone to dinner, then coffee. Then a weekend in Vermont. By graduation, they were inseparable. When had that changed? He stood and walked to the dresser, picked up the photo. His younger self stared back, arm around Claire, smiling like he'd won something. Had he appreciated her then? Or had he already been cataloging her as an asset? Smart wife, good family, the kind of partner who'd help him climb. The phone buzzed on the bed. He grabbed it. Jennifer. Board wants an emergency meeting Monday morning. 8 a.m. He set the phone down without responding. The apartment felt smaller now, suffocating. He needed air. He grabbed his keys and left. The gym was nearly empty. David pushed through another rep, the barbell heavy across his shoulders. Squat, stand. His thighs burned, his lungs ached. Good. Pain he could understand. Pain with a clear cause and a predictable end. Garrett? He racked the weight and turned. Michael stood by the bench press, gym bag slung over one shoulder. They'd gone to Harvard together, played racquetball every Thursday for the past 3 years. Didn't expect to see you here on a Friday. Michael set down his bag. Thought you'd be celebrating. Heard the Brennan deal finally closed. David grabbed his water bottle. It didn't. What? I canceled the meeting. Michael's expression shifted from confusion to concern. You canceled? David, that contract, I know what it was worth. Then why? Claire owns the Meridian. The words hung between them. Michael blinked. What? The Meridian Hotel. She owns it. Has for 4 years. Claire? Your wife Claire? David nodded. That's... Michael's voice trailed off. How did you not know? She didn't tell me. For 4 years. Her grandmother died 8 months ago. Left her the trust fund. She used it to buy hotels. David heard himself explaining it, heard how insane it sounded. I found out today when I tried to check in with... He stopped. Understanding crossed Michael's face. Oh, yeah. Tessa. David didn't answer. Michael sat on the bench. Jesus, David. I know. No, I don't think you do. Michael leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Claire Sutherland. You married Claire Sutherland. I'm aware. Do you know what her family's trust was worth? I never asked. Ballpark estimate? 200 million. Probably more. David's chest tightened. That's not possible. Her grandmother was Catherine Sutherland. Catherine Sutherland of Sutherland Properties. She owned half the commercial real estate in Boston before she sold out in the 90s. Michael was looking at him like he was insane. You didn't know this? Claire never talked about it. Of course she didn't. Because you married Claire, not Claire Sutherland. Michael stood. Do you know how rare that is? A woman with that kind of money who doesn't lead with it? David picked up the barbell. Set it down again. I need to fix this. How? I don't know. Does she know about Tessa? She was at the hotel. Walked in while we were checking in. Michael winced. That's bad. I'm aware. No, David, you're not. Michael grabbed his bag. Claire is the kindest person I've ever met. The fact that she married you instead of 100 other guys who would have treated her better, that was luck. The fact that she's been running a hotel empire while letting you think you were the successful one, that's love. He headed toward the door. Stopped, turned back. The fact that she's divorcing you now instead of taking you for everything you're worth, that's mercy. He left. David stood alone in the weight room, breathing hard, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Behind him, the gym continued its evening rhythm. Someone on the treadmill. Another person stretching. The regular soundtrack of improvement and effort. He looked like shit. Dark circles under his eyes. His shirt wrinkled from sitting in the office all day before the hotel. When had he last eaten? He couldn't remember. His phone buzzed. We need to talk. Tessa. He deleted the message without responding. Another buzz. David, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Tessa. He blocked the number. The trainer at the front desk glanced his way, then quickly looked away. David recognized that look. The same one the doorman had given him. The same one Susan had. Pity. He left the gym and walked. The city moved around him, taxis honking, people rushing past, the smell of roasted nuts from a street vendor, someone playing saxophone in the subway entrance. Friday night in Manhattan. Everyone had somewhere to be. He ended up at Washington Square Park. A chess player sat at one of the concrete tables, board set up, waiting for challengers. David sat across from him. $20 a game. The man didn't look up. You lose, you pay. You win, you play again. What if I win twice? Nobody wins twice. David put a 20 on the table. The man smiled and moved his pawn. They played in silence. David lost in 14 moves. Again. Another 20. Another loss. Again. You're not very good at this. The man reset the board. I'm aware. So why keep playing? David looked at the board, at the pieces arranged in their starting positions, at the illusion of equal footing before the first move revealed the gap in skill. It's straightforward, he said. The rules don't change. The man studied him. Bad day. Bad life choices. Those usually lead to bad days. They played again. David lasted 19 moves this time. You're thinking too much, the man said. Chess is about seeing what's there, not what you want to be there. David put down another 20. By the time he left, he was down $140 and no closer to understanding how to fix his marriage. His phone showed 9 missed calls from Jennifer. 3 from Michael, 1 from his mother, none from Claire. He walked home as the sun set behind the buildings, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple Claire would have known the names for. Saturday morning arrived with sunlight through the bedroom window and the immediate, crushing memory of yesterday. David lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the absence of Claire moving through the apartment. No shower running, no coffee brewing, no quiet humming while she got dressed. He'd called her twice more last night, both times straight to voicemail. He'd left messages that sounded desperate, even to his own ears. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Jennifer. Board meeting confirmed for Monday, 8 a.m. They want a full explanation. He typed back, I'll be there. Another buzz. Michael. How are you holding up? David stared at the message. How was he holding up? His wife owned a hotel empire he'd known nothing about. He'd brought his mistress to one of her properties. He'd blown a $40 million deal because he couldn't focus. His entire life had collapsed in the span of 24 hours. Fine, he typed back. Michael's response was immediate. Bullshit. I'm coming over. Don't. Too late. I'm already in a cab. David set the phone down and forced himself out of bed. The apartment looked the same as yesterday. Same furniture. Same photographs on the walls. Same evidence of a life he'd thought he understood. He made coffee because it gave him something to do. The machine was the expensive Italian one Claire had bought. She'd wanted the cheaper model. He'd insisted on the upgrade, said they might as well get the best. Had she rolled her eyes when he said that? He couldn't remember. The coffee tasted like ash. The doorbell rang 15 minutes later. Michael came in carrying a bag from the deli down the street. You look terrible. Thanks. When did you last eat? David had to think about it. Thursday. Lunch. That's not good. Michael unpacked the bag. Bagels, cream cheese, orange juice, eggs. Sit. Eat. I'm not hungry. Don't care. Eat anyway. David sat at the kitchen counter and took a bagel because arguing required more energy than he had. Michael cracked eggs into a pan. Have you talked to her? She won't answer. Did you try going to the hotel? Security would stop me. Did you try anyway? David didn't answer. Michael flipped the eggs. You need a plan. What kind of plan? The kind that shows her you understand what you did. I cheated. She knows I cheated. She caught me checking into her hotel with another woman. What else is there to understand? Michael turned from the stove. Do you actually not get it? Get what? David, she's been building something. An actual empire. While you were busy closing deals and chasing, he stopped. She was creating something real, and you didn't even notice. That's the betrayal. Not just Tessa. The fact that you were so focused on yourself that you missed your own wife becoming powerful. David set down the bagel. I didn't miss it. She hid it. Did she? Or did you just never ask? The question landed like a punch. Michael plated the eggs. When was the last time you asked Claire about her day? I don't know. Recently? When exactly? David tried to remember, came up blank. When was the last time you had a conversation with her that wasn't about your work, your deals, your stress? Nothing. When was the last time you asked her what she wanted? The silence stretched between them. Michael slid the plate across the counter. That's what I thought. David looked at the eggs. I don't know how to fix this. Then figure it out. Michael grabbed his coat. Because that woman spent 4 years building something incredible while supporting your career. She could have lorded it over you, could have made it a competition. Instead, she kept quiet and let you think you were the successful one, and you repaid her by fucking around. He headed for the door. If you can't figure out how to fix that, you don't deserve to. He left. David sat alone at the counter, staring at eggs he wouldn't eat, thinking about a question he couldn't answer. When had he last asked Claire what she wanted? The answer came to him around noon. Never. Not in any meaningful way. Not with actual interest in the response. He'd asked her opinion on curtains once, on whether they should get a second car, on what she wanted for dinner or where she wanted to go on vacation. Surface questions. Logistics. But what did she want from life? From him? From herself? He had no idea. David pulled out his laptop and opened a search browser. The Meridian Hotel, Manhattan. The website loaded. Professional. Sleek. The header image showed the lobby he'd stood in yesterday. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows. He scrolled down. Luxury hospitality redefined. The Meridian Collection represents a new standard in contemporary travel, combining world-class amenities with personalized service and architectural excellence. The Meridian Collection. He clicked the link. 6 hotels appeared on the screen: Manhattan, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, Miami. Each one a 50-plus floor tower in a major city. Each one recently renovated or newly built. The About section showed a woman's silhouette against a window overlooking a city skyline. No face, just the outline. Founded in 2022 by C.R. Sutherland, the Meridian Collection reimagines luxury hospitality for the modern traveler. Our properties combine cutting-edge design with environmental sustainability, creating spaces that inspire and restore. C.R. Sutherland. Not Claire Garrett. She'd kept her maiden name, for the business at least. Had she always planned this? Had she been waiting for the trust to come through, building her vision in secret? Or had she simply stopped including him in her life because he'd stopped being interested? He clicked through the photo gallery. The Manhattan property had a rooftop bar, floor-to-ceiling windows, plants integrated into the design, living walls, hanging gardens. The aesthetic was completely different from the corporate, aggressively luxurious style he associated with 5-star hotels. This was warmer, more human. It looked like Claire. He scrolled to the press section. The Meridian Collection wins Green Building Award. Architecture Today, March 2024. How one developer is changing luxury hospitality. Forbes, September 2024. C.R. Sutherland's Quiet Revolution. The Wall Street Journal. November 2020. He clicked the Forbes article. The piece opened with a photo of Claire standing in front of the Chicago property. She was wearing a charcoal blazer and holding architectural plans. Her hair was down. She was smiling, but not at the camera, at something off to the side. She looked confident, powerful. Nothing like the quiet wife who'd listened to him talk about his deals every night over dinner. Or maybe she'd always looked like this and he'd never bothered to see it. The article detailed her vision. Environmentally sustainable luxury hotels that prioritized guest experience over ostentatious displays of wealth. Properties designed by women architects, staff paid above industry standard, a business model built on respect rather than exploitation. "I don't think luxury should mean excess," Claire was quoted as saying. "It should mean quality, attention, care. The best experience isn't about gold-plated fixtures or champagne on arrival. It's about feeling genuinely welcomed, genuinely valued." David's chest felt tight. He kept reading. The article mentioned her background, graduate degree in architectural history from Columbia, a brief stint working for a preservation nonprofit, years of consulting work that he'd always dismissed as Claire's hobby. It detailed the trust from her grandmother, which had matured last year and given her the capital to move from consulting to development. "She's been planning this for years," one source said. "This isn't a rich kid playing developer. She knows the business inside out." The article ended with a paragraph about her personal life. Sutherland is married but keeps her private life private. When asked about balancing marriage and business, she laughed. "I don't think it's that different from what anyone else does. You make time for what matters to you. You show up for the people you love." She paused, then added more quietly, "And you hope they show up for you." David closed the laptop. His hands were shaking. He stood and walked to the bookshelf. Claire's architecture magazines were stacked neatly on the second shelf. He pulled one out at random. The subscription label showed her name. Claire Sutherland. Not Claire Garrett. He'd never noticed. He pulled down another magazine. Another. All addressed to Claire Sutherland. How many other things had he not seen? The coffee table held her latest read, a biography of Julia Morgan. A post-it note marked a page about halfway through. He opened to it. A passage was underlined in pencil. Morgan's genius lay not in grand gestures, but in attention to detail. She designed spaces that made people feel valued. Her buildings were beautiful because they were human. They acknowledged that architecture is, at its core, about how we live. In the margin, Claire had written in her neat handwriting, "This. Exactly this." David closed the book. He'd been married to her for 7 years. In that time, she'd built an empire based on a philosophy she'd developed through years of reading, studying, consulting. A philosophy she'd tried to explain to him probably dozens of times. He couldn't remember a single conversation about it. His phone buzzed. "Jennifer. The board wants your presentation outlined by EOD." He typed back, "I'll send it tomorrow. They want it today. Tomorrow." He set the phone down and walked to the bedroom. Claire's jewelry box sat on the dresser. He opened it. Inside, the pearl necklace he'd given her for their first anniversary, the diamond earrings for their 3rd, the bracelet for their 5th. Each piece expensive. Each piece purchased by his assistant based on his vague instructions. Something nice. Traditional. Beneath the jewelry, folded carefully, was a piece of paper. He pulled it out. A napkin from the bar where they'd met. She'd drawn on it a tiny sketch of his face, cartoonish with exaggerated features. Beneath it, she'd written, "You talked with your hands." I liked that. He'd kept this napkin for years. Carried it in his wallet through graduation, through his first job, through the early days of their relationship. When had he given it to her? He couldn't remember. But she'd kept it, through 7 years of marriage, through moves and redecorating and whatever else, through him slowly becoming someone who didn't talk with his hands anymore because gesturing in boardrooms looked unprofessional. David sat on the floor, back against the bed, napkin in his hands. The apartment settled around him. The refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Traffic noise filtering up from the street. The life continuing outside his catastrophe. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it. What did Claire want? The question circled through his mind, demanding an answer he didn't have. Not what did she want from him. Not what did she want him to do. What did Claire Sutherland want from her life? He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his photos, looking for her. Looking for evidence of who she was beyond the role of wife. Their honeymoon in Tuscany. Christmas at his parents' house. A charity gala from 2 years ago. Vacation in the Bahamas. In every photo, she was smiling, looking at the camera, playing the part. But there was one photo from the Bahamas trip where she'd turned away from him to look at something off the beach, the angle of her shoulders, the tilt of her head. She looked present in that moment in a way she didn't in any of the others. What had she been looking at? He'd probably been checking his phone, probably missed whatever had caught her attention. David stood and grabbed his keys. He needed to see her, needed to talk to her. Security or no security, he had to try. The Meridian's lobby was busier than yesterday. David walked through the doors and immediately saw Susan at the reception desk. She spotted him and reached for the phone. He raised his hands. "I'm not here to cause problems. I just need to talk to her." "Sir," Mrs. Garrett left instructions. "Please, 5 minutes." "I can't." "Then don't. I'll just wait here until she comes down." Susan's jaw tightened. "She's not here. When will she be back?" "I don't know." "Tomorrow? Tonight?" "Sir, please, I'm begging you. When will she be here?" Susan looked at him, really looked at him. Whatever she saw made her expression soften slightly. "She flew to Boston this morning. She won't be back until Tuesday." "Boston?" His voice sounded hollow. "To the property there?" Susan hesitated, then nodded. David turned and walked back through the doors before she could call security. On the sidewalk, he pulled out his phone and booked a flight. Boston's Meridian sat on the waterfront, glass and steel reflecting the harbor. David arrived just before sunset. The lobby here was different from Manhattan. Warmer woods, more natural light, but the same understated elegance. The same sense of someone caring about every detail. The woman at reception was younger than Susan. Her name tag read, Rebecca. "Welcome to the Meridian. Do you have a reservation?" "No, I need to speak with Claire Sutherland." Rebecca's expression changed immediately. Professional but guarded. "Is she expecting you?" "No. I'm afraid Ms. Sutherland isn't taking meetings without appointments." "I'm her husband." Rebecca's fingers moved toward the phone. "Please." David leaned against the counter. "I know she doesn't want to see me. I know I don't deserve 5 minutes of her time, but I flew here because I need to tell her something, and I need to say it to her face." "Sir, I really can't. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too selfish to notice what I had." The words came out raw. "And if she never speaks to me again, I'll understand. But I need to try." Rebecca's hand stayed on the phone. "Sir." "David?" He turned. Claire stood near the elevators, wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked tired. She also looked more beautiful than he'd ever seen her. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was flat, not angry, just exhausted. "I needed to see you." "How did you know I was here?" "Susan told me." "I'll have to talk to her about that." "Don't. Please, it's not her fault. He trailed off. "I was persistent." Claire walked toward him, stopped 10 feet away. "You should go home, David." "I can't. Not until you hear me out. There's nothing to hear. Yes, there is. No, she shook her head. You cheated. I caught you. It's simple. It's not about that. Then what's it about? It's about the fact that you built 6 hotels and I never asked you about any of them. It's about the fact that you had a grandmother who died and I didn't notice. It's about the fact that I've spent 7 years talking at you instead of to you, and I didn't realize it until I lost you. Claire's expression didn't change. You should have realized it before. You're right. I'm not interested in listening to you realize things about yourself, David. I've spent 7 years watching you realize things about yourself, your ambitions, your goals, your potential. I'm done being the audience for your personal growth. The words hit like glass, sharp and clean. I understand. Do you? She took a step closer. Because I don't think you do. You think this is about the cheating, about Tessa. It's not. It's about the fact that you brought her to my hotel, to my building. The one place I'd created that was entirely mine, and you tried to use it for that. I didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know. Because you never asked. In 4 years, you never once asked me what I was doing with my time. Never wondered where I went during the day. Never noticed that I stopped asking you to lunch, stopped inviting you to things, stopped trying to include you in my life. David's throat tightened. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology. Her voice cracked slightly. I wanted you to notice me while I was still your wife. I wanted you to care enough to ask questions. I wanted to matter to you the way you mattered to me. You did. You do. No, I don't. I'm convenient. I'm supportive. I'm there when you need someone to talk at. But I don't matter. Not really. She wiped her eyes quickly. Do you know what I did 8 months ago when my grandmother died? He shook his head. I called you in Tokyo. You were in a meeting. I left a voicemail asking you to call me back when you could. You texted me 6 hours later. Everything okay? I said my grandmother had passed away. You texted back, sorry, call you soon. You didn't call. You came home 3 days later and never mentioned it again. David felt something collapse inside his chest. Claire. I went to her funeral alone. I cleaned out her apartment alone. I dealt with the lawyers and the trust and everything else alone. And when you came home, you were so excited about the Tokyo deal that I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I'd been through, because I knew you'd say you were sorry and then you'd go right back to your email. I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing. It doesn't change anything. Then what can I do? Claire looked at him for a long moment. Nothing. There's nothing you can do. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This isn't a problem you can solve. It's not a deal you can close. It's years of not being seen, and you can't fix that with a speech or a gesture. She turned toward the elevator. Claire, wait. She stopped, but didn't turn around. You're right, he said, about all of it. I didn't see you. I didn't notice. I took you for granted in every way possible, and I can't fix that. But I can start over. I don't want to start over. Then let me finish. He took a breath. I read the Forbes article about your hotels, your philosophy, the way you think about luxury as care instead of excess. She turned slightly. So I spent 7 years missing the point of who you are. You tried to tell me. In hundreds of small ways, you tried to show me what mattered to you, and I was too focused on myself to notice. He took a step closer. You said in the interview that you hope the people you love show up for you. I didn't show up, not once in 7 years, but I'm here now, and I know it's too late, but I'm here anyway. Claire's shoulders were shaking. I don't expect you to forgive me, David continued. I don't even expect you to believe me. But I needed you to know that I finally see it. Not just the hotels. You. Who you actually are. And you're extraordinary. And I was a fucking idiot to not realize that every single day. The lobby had gone quiet. Rebecca at the desk was studiously looking at her computer. A couple near the elevators had stopped talking. Claire wiped her face. You don't get to do this. Do what? Show up here and say perfect things and expect it to matter. She turned fully to face him. You had 7 years to see me. 7 years to ask questions. 7 years to give a shit. And you're here now because you got caught. Because you're embarrassed. Because you finally realized what you had after you lost it. That's not love, David. That's regret. You're right. Stop agreeing with me. Stop being reasonable. Stop. Her voice broke. Stop making this harder. I'm not trying to make it harder. I just needed you to know that I understand now. What I did. What I didn't do. All of it. Understanding doesn't fix it. I know. Then why are you here? The question hung between them. David looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who'd supported him through every career move, every setback, every success. The woman who'd built an empire while he was too busy building his own to notice. The woman he'd betrayed in the most humiliating way possible. Because you deserve better than a voicemail apology, he said finally. You deserve someone looking you in the eye and acknowledging what they destroyed, even if that's all I can give you. Claire stared at him. Then she laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You want to acknowledge what you destroyed? Yes. Fine. She walked toward him. You destroyed 7 years. You destroyed trust. You destroyed the version of me that believed marriage meant partnership. You destroyed the hope I had that you'd ever become the man I thought you were when we met. She stopped directly in front of him. You destroyed us, David. Completely. And the worst part is that you didn't even do it with the affair. You did it with years of not caring enough to notice that I was disappearing. The words landed like blows. I know, he whispered. You don't. But you will. She stepped back. Rebecca, please have security escort Mr. Garrett out. Claire. Go home, David. 2 security guards appeared from somewhere behind the desk. Not aggressive. Just present. David looked at Claire one more time, memorizing her. The way she stood, the set of her shoulders, the pain in her eyes that he'd put there. I love you, he said. I should have said it more. I should have shown it more, but I do. I love you. Claire's jaw tightened. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. The wife who supports you. The partner who makes you look good. You don't love me. You never even knew me. One of the security guards touched David's elbow. He let himself be guided toward the door. Outside, the harbor stretched dark and cold. Wind off the water cut through his jacket. He'd left New York so quickly he hadn't brought a coat. His phone buzzed. Jennifer, where are you? Board meeting is in 14 hours. He'd completely forgotten. David looked back at the hotel. Through the glass doors, he could see Claire talking to Rebecca. Then she walked to the elevator and disappeared. He stood there until the cold seeped through his clothes, until his hands went numb, until security came out and politely but firmly suggested he move along. He got in a taxi and went to the airport. The board meeting was a massacre. David sat at the head of the conference table, facing 12 people who controlled his company's future. He'd prepared nothing, brought nothing, had nothing to offer except the truth. The Brennan deal fell through because I canceled the meeting, he said. There was a personal emergency. I made a choice. It was the wrong choice for the company. Thomas Brennan, the board chair, leaned back in his seat. A personal emergency? Yes. What kind of emergency? The kind I'm not going to discuss. David, you cost us $40 million. We deserve an explanation. You do. But you're not going to get one. The room erupted. Questions, accusations, demands. David sat through it all, answering what he could, refusing what he couldn't. Finally, Thomas raised a hand. The room quieted. This is unacceptable, Thomas said. The board has discussed this, and we're calling for a vote of no confidence. David nodded. I understand. Do you have anything to say in your defense? No. Nothing? I made a mistake. A series of mistakes. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise. Thomas exchanged glances with the others. We'll vote tomorrow. Until then, you're suspended. Jennifer will take over your responsibilities. Fine. David stood and walked out. In the hallway, Jennifer was waiting. What the hell was that? She asked. The truth. The truth? David. You just threw away your career. I know. Then why? Because I'm tired, Jennifer. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine. I'm tired of prioritizing work over everything else. I'm tired of being the person I've become. She stared at him. What happened to you? I woke up. He headed toward his office. I'm going to pack my things. Can you call me a car? Where are you going? I don't know. Anywhere that isn't here. His office looked the same as always. Mahogany desk, leather chair, view of the city, awards on the shelf, photos of him shaking hands with important people. No photos of Claire. He'd never put any up. Too personal, he'd always thought. Kept the office professional. Another mistake in a long line of them. David packed his personal items into a box. Diplomas, a few books, the vintage pen his father had given him. Everything else belonged to the company. The box felt light. Jennifer appeared in the doorway. Car's downstairs. Thank you. David. Her voice was softer now. Are you okay? No. Is there anything I can do? Take care of the company. You'll be better at it than I was. That's not true. It is. You actually care about the people who work here. I just cared about the numbers. He picked up the box and left. The apartment was exactly as he'd left it. Still quiet. Still full of Claire's absence. David set the box down in the entryway and looked around. 7 years. They'd lived here for 6 of them. How many nights had he come home late, found Claire already asleep, and been relieved he didn't have to make conversation? How many mornings had he left before she woke up? How many meals had they eaten in silence, him on his phone? Her pretending it didn't bother her? Too many to count. He walked to the bookshelf and pulled down more of Claire's magazines. Architecture Digest, Dwell, Metropolis. Each one had notes in the margins, ideas circled, concepts highlighted. She'd been building her vision for years, right here in this apartment, and he'd walked past these magazines thousands of times without ever picking one up. His phone rang. Michael. I heard about the board meeting, Michael said. News travels fast. Are you okay? I don't know what I am. Have you talked to Claire? She told me to go home. Did you? What else was I supposed to do? Fight. Prove to her you're serious. Show her you're different. She doesn't want to see me, Michael. So what? You're just giving up? David looked around the apartment, at Claire's books, her magazines. Her touches everywhere. The life she'd built while he'd ignored her. I'm not giving up, he said slowly. I'm just not sure what fighting looks like when the person you hurt doesn't want you to fight for them. You figure it out. That's what you do. You're good at solving problems. This isn't a problem to solve. Everything's a problem to solve if you care enough. Michael hung up. David sat on the couch and stared at the coffee table, at the architecture magazines, at the book about Julia Morgan. She designed spaces that made people feel valued. What kind of space would make Claire feel valued? The question circled through his mind. Not a grand gesture, not an expensive gift. Those were his old moves, the lazy moves. What did Claire actually want? He opened his laptop and pulled up the Meridian Collections website again. Looked at each property, read every page, studied every photo. The design philosophy was consistent: sustainability, accessibility, human-scale luxury. Every space felt intimate despite being part of a large hotel. Every detail suggested thought and care. This was Claire's language, the way she communicated value to the world. What would be his? David spent the next 3 hours researching, not hotels, not business, but Claire. He found her graduate thesis online, a dense academic paper about preservation architecture in New England. He read it cover to cover, found footnotes that referenced other papers she'd written, read those too. He found interviews from her consulting days, small trade publications mostly, but in each one the same themes emerged: respecting history while embracing progress, making spaces work for people instead of the other way around, sustainable design as ethical imperative. He found a blog she'd kept briefly in her 20s, personal essays about buildings she loved, museums she'd visited, the way light moved through certain spaces at certain times of day. The last post was from 8 years ago, right before they'd met. "I think I've been approaching this wrong," she'd written. "I've been studying buildings as if they exist separate from the people who use them, but architecture is just frozen human intention. We build what we value. We preserve what we love. We destroy what we've stopped caring about. So the question isn't what makes a building great, it's what makes people feel valued inside a building, and I think the answer is attention. Someone cared enough to get it right." David closed the laptop. Attention. Care. Someone bothering to get it right. He'd given her none of that, but he could start. The next morning, David called his lawyer. "I want you to draw up divorce papers," he said. "Everything goes to Claire. The apartment, the investments, all of it." "David, that's not how divorce works. Even in New York, you're entitled to—" "I don't care what I'm entitled to. I want her to have everything." "Have you talked to Claire about this?" "No, but it doesn't matter what she wants from me. This is what I'm offering." The lawyer sighed. "I'll draw up the papers, but you should know that she'll probably refuse. This looks like guilt, not generosity." "It is guilt." "Then you're making a mistake. Add it to the list." David hung up and made another call. "Susan, it's David Garrett." A pause. "Mr. Garrett, how can I help you? I need to know when Claire will be back in Manhattan." "Sir, I can't. I'm not asking so I can ambush her. I'm asking so I can avoid her. I need to get my things from the apartment, and I don't want to be there when she is." Another pause, then quietly, "She'll be back Thursday." "Thank you." "Mr. Garrett?" Susan's voice was careful. "She's been crying." The words hit him in the chest. "I know," he managed. "I know I did that. I think you should know that everyone here loves her. She's special. The way she treats people. She remembers names, asks about families, cares. I know that now." "Good." Susan's voice hardened slightly. "Don't make it worse." She hung up. David sat with the phone in his hand thinking about Claire crying, about the pain he'd caused, about the fact that an employee who'd known her for less than a year understood her value better than he had in 7. Thursday. He had 3 days. He spent them working, not on business, on understanding. He read every article he could find about the Meridian collection, every review, every architectural analysis, every business profile. He tracked down her former professors and colleagues, called them, asked about her, not as his wife, as herself. Claire was brilliant, one professor told him. She saw things other students missed, the way buildings talk to their surroundings, the way design choices communicate values. She cared about the ethics of architecture before it was fashionable. She was passionate, a former colleague said. She'd spend hours debating the right materials for a renovation, not because of cost, because different choices meant different things. She believed buildings should be honest. She should have been running her own firm a decade ago, another said, but she kept taking smaller projects and preservation work, consulting, things that didn't lead anywhere. We all wondered why she was playing small. She wasn't playing small, David said. She was learning, building towards something. Apparently, we all underestimated her. So did I. Wednesday afternoon, Michael called. I heard you're giving her everything. News travels fast. It's a dumb move, David. Generous, but dumb. It's the only move I have. She won't take it. Then she won't take it. But at least she'll know I meant it. Meant what? That I see her now, what she built, what I missed, what she's worth. Michael was quiet for a moment. You're really doing this? I am. What's your plan after? I don't have one. That's not like you. Good. The old me was an asshole. Michael laughed. Fair point. Need any help? No, I think I need to do this alone. Okay, but David? Yeah? For what it's worth, I think you're finally getting it right. David hung up and looked around the apartment one more time. Tomorrow he'd pack. Take his clothes, his personal items, the things that were clearly his. Leave everything else exactly as it was. Let Claire come home to a space that hadn't been disturbed, a space that was fully hers. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was a start. Thursday morning, David packed his things into 3 suitcases. Clothes, toiletries, his laptop, a few books, the photograph from his graduation. He left his key on the kitchen counter with a note. Claire, the divorce papers are with my lawyer. Everything goes to you. The apartment, the investments, all of it. No strings, no conditions. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness. I'm trying to give you what you should have had all along. Freedom to build your life without me in the way. I'm staying at Michael's for now. When you're ready to finalize things, have your lawyer contact mine. I won't fight anything. I won't ask for anything. I won't make this harder than it has to be. I understand that you don't believe me when I say I love you. I understand why. But it's true anyway. I love you. I loved you when we met, even if I was too selfish to show it properly. I loved you during our marriage, even if I was too blind to recognize what that meant. And I love you now. Which is why I'm leaving. You said I don't know you. You're right. But I want you to know that I tried to learn these past few days. I read everything, every article, every interview, every thesis paper. I talked to your professors, your colleagues, people who understood your brilliance years before I did. And here's what I learned. You're extraordinary. Not because of the hotels or the money or the success, because of how you think about people. The way you design spaces to make strangers feel welcome. The way you remember names and ask about families. The way you turned luxury into care instead of excess. You built something beautiful while I was too busy to notice. And I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry that I didn't see it. That I didn't see you. I hope you build 100 more hotels. I hope they're all as thoughtful and honest as you are. I hope you find someone who sees your value every day and never stops being grateful for it. I hope you're happy. I'm sorry I wasn't the person who could give you that. David. He left the note next to the key and walked out. Michael's apartment was smaller, messier, comfortable in the way places are when they're actually lived in. You can stay as long as you need, Michael said, helping with the suitcases. I'll start looking for a place tomorrow. No rush. How are you doing? I don't know. Numb mostly. Have you heard from her? No, I don't expect to. David sat on Michael's couch and stared at nothing. His phone buzzed. Jennifer. Board voted. You're out. I'm officially CEO. I'm sorry, David. He typed back, don't be. You'll be great. Another buzz. His mother. I heard about you and Claire. Call me. He turned off the phone. Michael brought him a beer. What now? I have no idea. No wife, no job, no plan. So start over. As what? Someone who gives a shit about people. You've got the time now. Figure out what that looks like. David took a drink. She was building hotels while I was chasing deals. She was creating something meaningful while I was just accumulating. So create something meaningful. I don't know how. You learn, same way she did. I'm 43, Michael. I'm too old to start over. Claire was 38 when her grandmother died. She started over. The words landed. David looked at the beer in his hand, at Michael's cluttered apartment, at the life he'd thought he wanted and the person he'd become chasing it. I need to do something, he said. Something real. Then do it. I don't know what real looks like for me. Figure it out. You've got time. David stayed at Michael's that night, and the next, and the one after that. Each day he waited for Claire to reach out, to acknowledge the note, to tell him she'd seen the divorce papers. Nothing came. On Sunday he went for a walk. The city moved around him, couples holding hands, families with strollers, someone playing saxophone on the corner, life continuing while his stayed suspended. He ended up at the park. The chess player was there at his usual table. Back for more? The man asked. David sat down. Yeah. They played. David lost. You're still thinking too much, the man said. I know. What's the problem? I hurt someone important, and I can't fix it. Can't or don't know how. David looked at the board. Does it matter? Always matters. Can't means it's over. Don't know how means you haven't tried hard enough. I tried. Did you? Or did you just apologize and hope that was enough? David reset the board. They played again. Halfway through, David saw it. The move he'd been missing. The pattern he'd failed to recognize. He made it. The chess player smiled. There you go. Now you're seeing it. Seeing what? The board. What's actually there instead of what you want to be there. David lost anyway, but closer this time. He walked home, Michael's home, thinking about Claire's note in the margin of her book. This. Exactly this. She'd been trying to tell him for years. In margins and magazines and quiet comments he'd dismissed. She'd been showing him who she was, what mattered to her, the way she saw the world, and he'd never looked. Monday morning, David called Susan. Mr. Garrett. She sounded wary. I need to know if Claire saw my note. Sir, I can't. Please. I'm not asking what she said, just if she saw it. A long pause. She saw it. And nothing. She went up to the penthouse and hasn't come down. Is she okay? I don't know. Can you... He stopped. Never mind. Thank you, Susan. Mr. Garrett? Yes? For what it's worth, I think you're trying. That counts for something. Does it? To some people, yes. Whether it counts to her... Susan trailed off. I can't speak for Mrs. Garrett. David thanked her and hung up. His phone buzzed immediately. Unknown number. This is Claire's lawyer. We need to discuss the divorce terms. It was happening. She was moving forward. David called his lawyer back. Make it easy, he said. Whatever she wants. However she wants it. Just make it easy for her. David, just do it, please. The lawyer sighed. I'll set up a meeting with her legal team. Thank you. David sat in Michael's apartment, looking at the 3 suitcases that held his life, thinking about the woman he'd married and lost and would spend the rest of his life regretting. The mediation was scheduled for Friday. David arrived early, dressed in a suit that felt too formal for what amounted to the official end of his marriage. The conference room was neutral territory, neither his lawyer's office nor hers. Just a beige room with a table and chairs and fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly ill. Claire's lawyer arrived first, Patricia Chen, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the expression of someone who'd seen everything. Mr. Garrett, she set down her briefcase, will be addressing the division of assets today. Whatever Claire wants, it's not that simple. It is for me. Patricia gave him a long look. My client has concerns about your motivations. My motivations are simple. I want her to have everything. She thinks you're trying to manipulate her. David felt something twist in his chest. No, I'm trying to make this as painless as possible. By giving away everything you've worked for? I worked for it. She lived with me while I worked for it. That's not the same thing. Patricia opened her briefcase. Your own assets are considerable. Your stake in the company... I don't have a stake anymore. The board voted me out. She blinked. When? Last week. You didn't tell your lawyer? I told him. He knows. Mr. Garrett, that changes the financial picture significantly. Good. Then there's less to argue about. David's lawyer, Robert, arrived and sat beside him. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder. We were just discussing Mr. Garrett's employment status, Patricia said. Robert nodded. He's no longer with Garrett Acquisitions. The board terminated him. Why? Personal reasons. Patricia looked between them. Personal reasons related to this divorce? Related to me being a shit husband who couldn't focus on work anymore, David said. Is Claire coming? No, she's asked me to handle this in her absence. Of course she has. Patricia pulled out documents. My client is willing to accept the apartment and the investment portfolio. However, she's uncomfortable accepting everything with no conditions. Why? Because it looks like guilt masquerading as generosity. David leaned back in his chair. It is guilt. I'm not pretending otherwise, but it's also what's right. She supported my career for 7 years, lived in an apartment I chose, put her own work on hold, or so I thought, because I was too busy to notice she'd started building an empire without me. She didn't put her work on hold, Patricia said. She funded her initial investments with money from her consulting work. The trust from her grandmother came later. When? About 8 months ago, but she'd already acquired 2 properties before that. Smaller ones, but still. David felt his stomach sink. She did it herself? Yes. She spent years building capital, making connections, creating a business plan. The trust gave her the ability to scale, but the foundation was already there. Jesus Christ, David put his head in his hands. I really didn't see any of it. No, you didn't. The room fell quiet. Robert cleared his throat. So, the assets. Claire wants the apartment and the portfolio. What about the rest? There is no rest, David said. That's everything I have. The company's gone. My savings are in the portfolio. The apartment was our only property. What about your personal items? I took them. They're at Michael's place. Patricia made notes. My client also wants to ensure a clean break. No contact after the divorce is finalized unless absolutely necessary. The words hurt more than they should have. Fine. You agree? Yes. Mr. Garrett, Robert interjected. You should think about this. You're entitled to... I'm not entitled to anything. Claire wants a clean break. I'll give her that. Patricia studied him. You're making this very easy. That's the point. Most divorces aren't like this. Most divorces don't involve me realizing I was married to an extraordinary woman I was too self-absorbed to appreciate. David met her eyes. I'm not fighting. I'm not negotiating. I'm not making this ugly. She deserves better than that. Patricia nodded slowly. I'll draw up the papers. How long? 2 weeks, maybe. We need to finalize the asset transfer, file with the court, wait for processing. Whatever she needs. Robert spoke up. David, I strongly advise you to reconsider. No, we're done here. David stood and walked out. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. It was happening, really happening. In 2 weeks, he wouldn't be married anymore. Claire would have the apartment, the money, the clean break she wanted, and he'd have... what? 3 suitcases, a couch at Michael's place, no job, no wife, no plan. He pushed off the wall and headed for the elevator. Outside, the city felt different, colder, grayer, or maybe that was just him. His phone buzzed. Michael, how did it go? Exactly as expected. Want to talk about it? No. Want to get drunk about it? David smiled despite everything. Maybe later. He walked without direction, letting the city carry him. Past the building where he used to work, past restaurants he'd taken clients to, past the hotel where his marriage had ended. He stopped outside the Meridian. The doorman gave him a look, recognition mixed with pity, but didn't approach. David stood on the sidewalk, looking up at 53 floors of glass and steel. Somewhere up there, maybe, Claire was working, making decisions, building something, without him. He turned away and kept walking. 2 weeks passed like water. David spent them in a strange limbo, not working, not planning, just existing. He helped Michael with small things around the apartment, cooked meals, read books he'd been meaning to get to for years, went to the gym, played chess in the park, lost every single game. You're getting worse, the chess player said on Wednesday afternoon. I know. What's happening? Divorce gets finalized tomorrow. The man nodded slowly. That why you can't focus? Probably. You still love her? Yeah. She know that? I told her. She doesn't believe me. Why not? Because I spent 7 years proving otherwise. They played another game. David lost in 12 moves. You're not even trying anymore, the man said. What's the point? You're better than me. So get better. Or stop playing. David looked at the board, at the pieces he'd moved without thought, at the strategy he'd abandoned halfway through. I don't know how to get better. Same way everyone does. You pay attention. You learn from mistakes. You try again. What if she won't let me try again? Then you try anyway. Not for her, for you. The man reset the board. You can't win a game you stop playing. David went home, Michael's home, and sat on the couch. His phone buzzed. Robert, papers are ready. Claire signed this morning. Just needs your signature. The message sat there. Final. Absolute. David stared at it for a long time. Then he called Robert. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The lawyer's office was quiet. Robert handed him the papers without ceremony. David flipped through them. Legal language. Asset transfers. The end of 7 years in numbered clauses. He signed. That's it, Robert said. I'll file these today. You'll be officially divorced by Monday. Okay? David. Robert's voice was gentler now. Are you sure about this? It's not too late to... I'm sure. Okay. I'll send you the final documents once they're processed. David left. Outside, the afternoon sun was too bright. He walked to the park and sat on a bench. 7 years. Done. Over. His phone buzzed. Patricia. Divorce finalized. Asset transfer will complete by Monday. My client wishes you well. Standard language. Professional. Clean. No message from Claire. He didn't expect one. David sat there until the sun started setting, watching joggers and dog walkers and people whose lives hadn't just legally ended on paper. His phone rang. Michael. Hey, Robert called. You okay? Yeah. Liar. I'm coming to get you. I'm fine. You're sitting alone in a park looking pathetic. I can feel it through the phone. Where are you? Washington Square. Stay there. Michael showed up 15 minutes later with 2 coffees and a bag of donuts. Comfort food, he said, sitting beside David. The official meal of divorce. David took a donut. Thanks. How are you really? I don't know. Empty, relieved, destroyed, all of it? That sounds about right. They sat in silence, eating donuts, watching the park empty as evening came on. What are you going to do now? Michael asked finally. No idea. You've got to do something. I know. So? David looked at the chess tables. Empty now, players gone home. I think I need to figure out who I am when I'm not defining myself by work or marriage. That's very therapeutic of you. I've had time to think. And I don't like who I was. The guy who cared more about deals than people, who measured success by acquisitions instead of relationships, who had an extraordinary woman and didn't appreciate her until it was too late. So be different. How? Start by giving a shit. Find something that matters more than your ego. Build something that helps people instead of just making money. David finished his coffee. That's what Claire did. Yeah. It is. She figured it out while I was still chasing the wrong things. So now you figure it out too. I'm not sure I know how. Michael stood. Then you learn. Come on. You're staying with me for now. But you need to start making plans. Real plans. Not just existing. They walked back to Michael's apartment through streets that were starting to feel familiar. Not home, but something. That night, David lay on Michael's couch and thought about what came next. He had money. Not much, but enough. The company buyout had given him a small payout. He could live on it for a while if he was careful. But what would he do? The questions circled through his mind until he finally fell asleep. Monday morning, David's phone buzzed with a notification. Asset transfer complete. He checked his bank account. Empty, except for the buyout. Everything else had gone to Claire. It felt right. He made coffee and opened his laptop, started searching. Not for jobs, not for opportunities, for meaning. He found a nonprofit that specialized in affordable housing, another that helped small business owners in underserved neighborhoods, a third that provided job training to formerly incarcerated people, organizations doing real work, making real differences. He sent emails, asked about volunteering, offered his skills, finance, strategy, connections, without mentioning his previous role. Just said he wanted to help. 3 responded by noon. By the end of the week, he was volunteering 20 hours at the housing nonprofit, helping them restructure their funding model. It wasn't glamorous, wasn't impressive, wasn't something he could leverage into a better position. It just mattered. You're good at this, the executive director told him after his first week. Her name was Ruth, a woman in her 50s who'd spent 30 years fighting for housing justice. It's just finance. No, it's understanding what people need and finding ways to give it to them. That's rare. David helped them secure a grant they'd been pursuing for 2 years. Ruth cried when she got the news. This funds housing for 60 families, she said. 60 families who will have stability, safety, a chance. David felt something shift in his chest, something that had been numb for months. Purpose. He started taking on more projects. The small business nonprofit needed help with their loan program. The job training organization wanted to expand. David used his connections, called in favors, structured deals that prioritized people over profit. It felt different than his old work. Smaller, less prestigious, better. Michael noticed. You seem lighter. I'm broke, unemployed, and divorced. I shouldn't be lighter. But you are. David thought about it. Yeah, I guess I am. Good. You're finally doing something real. Claire would have understood this. What I'm doing now. It's closer to her philosophy than anything I did before. So tell her. She doesn't want to hear from me. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Her lawyer made it very clear. Clean break, no contact. Michael grabbed 2 beers from the fridge. Sometimes people say things because they're hurt. Doesn't mean they mean them forever. She meant it. Then prove her wrong. Not with words, with actions. Show her you've changed. How? You'll figure it out. 3 months passed. David found a small apartment in Brooklyn, nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, old building, but with good light and hardwood floors. He furnished it simply, bought books, started cooking real meals instead of eating takeout. He'd lost weight, started running in the mornings, let his hair grow out slightly, dressed in jeans and sweaters instead of suits. He looked different, felt different. The nonprofits he worked with started paying him small consulting fees. Not much, but enough to supplement his savings. He took on more projects, built a reputation as someone who actually cared about outcomes over optics. Ruth introduced him to other organizations. Word spread. The guy who used to run Garrett Acquisitions was now helping nonprofits structure sustainable funding models. Why are you doing this? A journalist asked during an interview for a small nonprofit publication. David thought carefully. Because I spent years building wealth without building anything meaningful. I'm trying to correct that. Is this about your divorce? Partly. But mostly it's about realizing I was living the wrong life. I was good at making money. I wasn't good at mattering. The article ran with the headline, Former CEO finds purpose in non-profit work. Claire would have seen it. Maybe. If she still followed industry news. He hoped she had. Not because he wanted her back, though he did, desperately, but because he wanted her to know he'd heard her. That her philosophy about care and attention and making people feel valued had finally registered. That he was trying to become someone who understood what she'd known all along. 6 months after the divorce, David was having coffee with Ruth when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Mr. Garrett? He recognized the voice immediately. Susan. Susan. Hi, is everything... Mrs. Garrett asked me to call you. His heart stopped. Is she okay? She's fine. She wants to know if you're free tomorrow at 2. For what? She didn't say. Just asked if you could meet her at the Boston property. David's hand tightened around the phone. Yes, I'm free. I'll let her know. Susan, wait, do you know what this is about? A pause. No, but she seemed different. Calmer, maybe. I don't know. Okay, thank you. Mr. Garrett, good luck. She hung up. David sat there, coffee forgotten, heart racing. What was that? Ruth asked. My ex-wife wants to meet. That's good, right? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. He ran his hand through his hair. She hasn't spoken to me in 6 months. So why now? I have no idea. Ruth smiled. Only one way to find out. The train to Boston felt longer than usual. David sat by the window, watching scenery blur past, trying not to hope too much. Claire wanted to meet. That was all he knew. It could be anything. Legal paperwork. Final closure. A chance to tell him directly how much she hated him. But she'd called? After 6 months of silence. That had to mean something. He arrived at the Meridian just before 2. The lobby was different from the last time he'd been here. Lighter. New furniture, maybe. Or maybe he was just seeing it differently. Rebecca was at the desk. She saw him and smiled slightly. "Mr. Garrett, Mrs. Garrett is expecting you." Penthouse level. "Thank you." The elevator ride up felt eternal. When the doors opened, Claire was standing by the windows, looking out at the harbor. She was wearing dark jeans and a cream sweater. Her hair was down. She looked beautiful and distant and absolutely terrifying. "Hi," he said. She turned. "Hi." They stood there, 15 feet apart, the silence stretching between them. "Thank you for coming," Claire said finally. "Of course, I'd have come any time, you know that." "I do now." David stepped closer, stopped when he saw her shoulders tense. "Susan said you wanted to talk." "I did. I do." Claire wrapped her arms around herself. "I saw the article about the nonprofit work." "Oh." "Ruth called me." David blinked. "What?" "Ruth Davidson, from the housing nonprofit. She called me 3 weeks ago. Said she wanted to thank the woman who'd raised such a caring man." "I never told her." "I know. She looked you up. Found out about me through old news articles about our wedding." Claire's voice was soft. "She told me what you've been doing, how much you've helped, how you restructured their funding model and secured grants they'd been chasing for years. It was just finance." "No, it wasn't." Claire moved toward him. Still far, but closer. "She told me you cried when you saw the families move into the new housing, that you spent your Saturday helping a single mother fill out lease paperwork because the language was confusing, that you remember everyone's names and ask about their kids." David felt his throat tighten. "I'm just trying to do better." "I know. That's why I called you." "Why?" "Because I've been angry for 6 months. Rightfully angry, and I told myself I was done, that I'd never speak to you again, that you were out of my life completely." She stopped directly in front of him. "But then Ruth called, and then I saw the article, and I realized something." "What?" "That you were listening. All those things I said at the hotel about care and attention and making people feel valued. You heard me. Finally. I did. Too late, but I did. Maybe not too late." David's heart stuttered. "What?" Claire's eyes were wet. "I've been watching you. Not stalking. Just paying attention. Ruth sends me updates. She thinks I don't know, but I do. She tells me about the projects you're working on, the families you're helping, the way you've changed your entire life." "I should have changed years ago." "Yes, you should have, but you didn't. And that hurt me in ways I'm still processing." She wiped her eyes. "But you're changing now. Not because you're trying to win me back, because you actually see it. The way I see the world, the way I've always seen it. I do. God, Claire, I do. I'm so sorry it took me losing you to understand. I'm sorry, too, that it had to come to that." They stood there, inches apart, both of them crying quietly. "I don't know what happens now," Claire said. "I'm not ready to just forgive everything. I'm not sure I can trust you again." "I understand. But I think maybe I want to try." David felt something crack open in his chest. "Try what?" "Starting over. Not going back to what we were. But maybe building something new. Slower. More honest. I'd like that. I'd like that more than anything. I have conditions. Anything. We see a therapist. Together. I need to work through what happened, and you need to understand why it hurts so much. Okay. We date. Actually date. Like we did before we got married. No jumping back into living together, no rushing. Okay. And you keep doing the work you're doing. The non-profit stuff. Not because I'm asking, because you actually care. I do care. This is the first time in my life I've felt like I'm doing something that matters. Claire nodded slowly. Okay. 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 We try. David reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand found hers, her fingers laced through his. I love you, he said. I know you don't fully believe me yet, but I'll spend however long it takes proving it. I believe you're trying. That's enough for now. They stood there, holding hands, looking at each other like they were meeting for the first time. Can I take you to dinner? David asked. Claire smiled slightly. Tomorrow. I have a meeting with contractors in 20 minutes. Tomorrow, then. Where? Surprise me, but nowhere expensive, somewhere real. I know just the place. She squeezed his hand. David? Yeah? Thank you. For becoming someone I can respect again. Thank you for giving me another chance. Claire let go of his hand and stepped back. I need to get to my meeting. But I'll see you tomorrow? Tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 7. I'll text you the address. I'm staying here tonight. At the hotel? I've been staying here a lot lately. It's easier than maintaining 2 places. Makes sense. She walked him to the elevator. Before the doors closed, she touched his arm. David? Don't make me regret this. I won't, I promise. The doors closed. David rode down to the lobby, heart racing, hands shaking, hope flooding through him like oxygen. She'd called. She wanted to try. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't absolution, but it was a chance. He'd take it. The next 6 months were different than anything David had experienced. He and Claire dated. Actually dated. He picked her up at her hotel, took her to small restaurants where they could talk, asked her questions and listened, really listened to the answers. She told him about her hotels, the challenges of managing 6 properties, the joy of seeing her design philosophy realized in physical space, the satisfaction of creating jobs that paid well and treated people with dignity. He told her about the nonprofits, the families he'd helped house, the businesses he'd helped structure, the way it felt to do work that mattered. They saw a therapist weekly, talked through the betrayal, the neglect, the years of parallel lives lived under one roof. It was painful, necessary, healing. I need to understand why you stopped seeing me, Claire said during one session. David thought carefully. I think I was so focused on becoming successful that I forgot why I wanted success. It was supposed to make me worthy of you. Instead, it made me someone who didn't deserve you. You were always worthy. You just stopped acting like I mattered. I know, and I'm sorry. Every day I'm sorry. I know you are. I can see it now. They took it slow. No rushing, no pushing, just building something honest. David met her at construction sites, watched her talk to contractors about sustainable materials, saw how her face lit up when a design element worked exactly as she'd envisioned. Claire came to the nonprofits, met Ruth and the other people David worked with, saw him with the families he'd helped house, the way he remembered their kids' names, asked about their jobs, cared about their lives. You're different, she said one night over dinner. Good different? Real different. Like you finally figured out who you want to be. I want to be someone you can be proud of. I am proud of you, but more importantly, are you proud of yourself? David thought about it. Yeah, I am. For the first time in my life, I'm actually proud of what I'm doing. That's what I wanted. Not for you to change for me, but for you to change for you. I'm trying. I know. On their 6-month anniversary of redating, David took Claire to Washington Square Park. "Why here?" she asked. "Because this is where I learned something important." He led her to the chess tables. The same player was there. "You came back," the man said, "and you brought someone. This is Claire. Claire, this is—" David realized he'd never asked the man's name. "Walter," the man supplied. "Pleasure to meet you." "He taught me that you can't win a game you stop playing," David said. "That you have to pay attention to what's actually there, not what you want to be there." Walter smiled. "Did you get better?" "At chess? No, I still lose every time. But at life? Yeah, I think I did." Walter looked at Claire. "He talks about you constantly. Boring as hell, but he means it." Claire laughed. "Good to know." They walked through the park as the sun set, hands linked, moving slowly. "David?" Claire stopped by the fountain. "Yeah, I think I'm ready." "Ready for what?" "To stop dating and start being married again. Really married, not the version we had before, but something real." David felt tears in his eyes. "Are you sure?" "I am. You've proven yourself. Not through grand gestures, through consistency, through showing up, through caring about the right things. I love you. So much. I love you too. I never stopped. Even when I hated you, I loved you." They kissed in the park while joggers passed and dogs barked and the city moved around them. "We'll need to renew our vows," Claire said. "The right way. With real promises. Real understanding. Anything you want. I want small. Just us and the people who actually matter. And I want you to write your own vows. Real ones. Honest ones. I can do that." They walked back to her hotel, their hotel now, together, and started planning. The ceremony was at the Boston Meridian, on the rooftop. 20 people. Ruth and her team from the nonprofit. Michael. A few of Claire's architects, Susan and Rebecca from the hotel staff. Claire's mother, who'd flown in from Seattle. No speeches, no performances, just vows. Claire went first, her hands shaken slightly, reading from a card she'd written in her careful handwriting. "David, when we got married the first time, I promised to love you through everything. I kept that promise even when it hurt, even when you weren't keeping yours. This time, I'm making a different promise. I promise to love you, but I also promise to hold you accountable, to call you out when you're slipping back into old patterns. To demand the same attention and care that I give you. I promise to build with you, not just support you building alone. I promise to show you who I am, and I promise to keep showing you every day until you don't have to guess anymore." David's turn. He'd written his vows on the same napkin from the bar where they'd met. Claire had given it back to him on their 6-month anniversary. His voice cracked as he read. "Claire, when we got married the first time, I didn't understand what I was promising. I thought marriage was about support and partnership, but I thought that meant you supporting me. I was wrong. I'm here today promising to see you, actually see you, every day, to ask questions and listen to answers, to care about what you're building as much as what I'm building. To measure my success not by money or deals, but by whether I made you feel valued. You're extraordinary. You always were. I just wasn't paying attention. I promise I'll never stop paying attention again." They exchanged rings, new ones simpler than the originals, and kissed while their small crowd cheered. Ruth cried. Michael wolf whistled. Claire's mother beamed. Afterward, they had dinner on the rooftop. No formal seating, just tables and good food and people talking. David found himself next to Ruth. "Thank you," he said, "for calling her, for telling her what I was doing." "I didn't do it for you," Ruth said. "I did it for her. She needed to know that people can change, that the man she married wasn't gone forever, just buried under years of stupid priorities. Still, thank you. Don't thank me. Prove me right. Keep being the person you've become." "I will." Later, David and Claire stood at the rooftop edge, looking out at the harbor. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That this is the first time I've ever been fully present for a moment in my life." "Good. Stay present." "Always." Claire leaned against him. "I still have hard days. Days when I remember walking into that lobby and seeing you with her. Days when I don't trust you completely." "I know. That's fair. I'll earn it back, however long it takes." "I believe you will." They stood there, watching the city lights reflect on the water, building something real from the ruins of what they'd had before. 5 years later, David stood in the lobby of the Meridian San Diego, the newest property in Claire's collection, the 8th overall, the largest. Claire was upstairs meeting with the design team. He'd come early to walk through the space alone. The lobby was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, living walls of native plants, furniture built by local craftspeople, light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It felt like Claire, like care made physical. "Mr. Garrett?" He turned. A young man in a staff uniform, name tag reading James. "Ms. Sutherland asked me to bring you up." David followed him to the elevator. The penthouse level had been converted into dual offices. Claire's side was organized chaos. Fabric samples, architectural drawings, 3-dimensional models of proposed buildings. His side was simpler. Just a desk, computer, files from the dozen non-profits he now consulted for full time. Claire was on the phone, gesturing animatedly. She saw him and smiled, held up one finger. David waited, watching her work. She was explaining some design element to whoever was on the other end, technical details he barely understood. Her passion was clear in every word. She hung up. "Sorry, contractor drama." "The usual?" "Always." She walked over and kissed him. "How does it look?" "Incredible. You've outdone yourself. We've outdone ourselves. This wouldn't exist without your financial structuring. This exists because you had a vision. I just helped make the numbers work." They'd found a rhythm over the years. Claire designed and built. David helped structure sustainable funding models that prioritized worker welfare and environmental responsibility. He consulted for her hotels and for nonprofits. She designed spaces that made people feel valued. They built together. "I have something to tell you," Claire said. "Good something or bad something?" "Different something. I'm pregnant." David felt the world shift. "What?" 2 months. I wanted to wait until I was sure before telling you." He pulled her close. "Claire, oh my God, really?" "Really." They stood there, holding each other, thinking about the family they were about to become. "Are you happy?" Claire asked. "I'm terrified. But yeah, I'm happy." "Good. Me too." David pulled back to look at her. "We're going to be parents." "We are." "I'm going to be better at this than I was at being a husband the first time around." "You'd better be." "I'm not raising a child with someone who doesn't pay attention." "I'll pay attention, I promise." Claire smiled. "I know you will. You've proven that." That night, they lay in bed in their apartment overlooking the bay. They'd kept separate places in different cities, meeting halfway, making it work, and talked about the future. What do you want to teach them? Claire asked. That what matters is how you treat people. That success means building something meaningful. That attention and care are the most valuable things you can give someone. You learned all that from me. I did. You're the best teacher I've ever had. Then I'll teach them about design, about creating spaces that make people feel welcome, about sustainability and responsibility and thinking about more than just profit. And together, we'll teach them to notice, to really see the people around them, to care about more than themselves. Claire's hand found his in the dark. We'll teach them love, real love, the kind that shows up every day. Yeah, that. They fell asleep like that, hands linked, building a future in their minds. 15 years after the hotel lobby, David stood at his daughter's soccer game, watching her play midfield with the same fierce focus Claire brought to everything. His phone buzzed. Claire, running late, meeting went long. Be there in 10. No rush. She's crushing it. Of course she is. She's ours. David smiled and put his phone away. Life was different now, slower, fuller. He and Claire had figured out how to balance her 8 hotels and his non-profit consulting, how to be present for their daughter while still doing meaningful work, how to keep choosing each other every day. The game ended. His daughter ran over, sweaty and grinning. Did you see my goal? I did. That was incredible. Mom here yet? Any minute. Claire's car pulled up. She got out, still in work clothes, and jogged over. Did I miss it? I scored. Their daughter launched into a detailed recap. Claire listened with full attention, asked questions, celebrated, made their daughter feel like the most important person in the world. Later, after dropping their daughter at a friend's house, David and Claire grabbed dinner at a small restaurant near the waterfront. Remember when we used to eat at places like this and I'd be checking my phone the whole time? David asked. Vividly. I'm sorry I did that. I know. You've apologized about 1,000 times. I'll probably apologize 1,000 more. Claire reached across the table and took his hand. David, I forgave you years ago. You don't have to keep carrying it. I know. But I never want to forget how close I came to losing everything that matters. You won't forget, but you also don't have to punish yourself forever. You changed. You became someone I can trust completely. That's enough. David squeezed her hand. I love you. I love you too. Now eat your pasta before it gets cold. They ate and talked about their daughter's upcoming school play, about the new hotel Claire was planning in Portland, about the housing project David was helping structure in Detroit. Normal conversation. Real partnership. Afterward, they walked along the waterfront, hands linked, comfortable in the silence. You know what I think about sometimes? Claire said. What? That day in the hotel lobby, when I walked in and saw you with her. David's chest tightened. Claire. No, let me finish. I think about it. And I'm grateful. Grateful? If that hadn't happened, we'd still be living those parallel lives. You'd still be chasing deals. I'd still be building hotels while pretending I didn't resent your absence. We'd have stayed married and been miserable. I never thought about it that way. It was the worst day of my life, but it was also the catalyst for the best years. You became real. We became real. We built something honest. I'm grateful too then, even though I hate what I put you through. I know, but it's okay now. We're okay now. They stopped at a bench overlooking the water, sat close, watched boats move through the harbor. Do you ever regret it? David asked. Giving me another chance? Never. Not once. You've shown up every single day for 15 years. That's not nothing. It's everything. Yes, it is. They sat there until the sun set, painting the sky in colors Claire could name and David had learned to appreciate. When they finally stood to leave, David pulled her close. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For seeing me. For teaching me to see you. For being patient while I figured out how to be human. You don't have to thank me for that." "I do. Every day I do." Claire kissed him. "Then you're welcome. Every day you're welcome." They walked back to the car, hands linked, building a life one present moment at a time. Two people can share a life without ever truly meeting. It takes attention, real attention, to see beyond roles and routines, to notice when someone is building something extraordinary while you're too busy to look, to recognize that love isn't just a feeling, it's a practice, a daily choice to show up, ask questions, and value the person standing next to you. David had to lose everything to learn that. Claire had to walk away to find her way back. But in the end, they built something real. Not perfect, just honest. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is see them. Actually see them, who they are, what they're building, what they need from you, and then show up. Every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's what love is. Attention, care, presence. The rest is just noise. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Let's build a community of people who believe relationships are worth fighting for. Drop a like if you've ever had to learn the hard way that presence matters more than success. And comment below, have you ever had a wake-up call that changed how you show up for the people you love? Share your story. Let's learn from each other.